and welcome. I'm Mark Winkworth. You're listening to Tales of the Sea. The other morning on my walk down Commercial Street here in Portland, I was watching the lobster boats unload at the wharf. Diesels were rumbling and seagulls were circling, hoping for a morning snack. The busy working harbor before much of the city is awake. A school bus rolled past me with kids' faces pressed to the windows. A few of them looked out at the fishing boats like it was a totally new sight. And for some, it was. Some of the kids lived no more than a few minutes from the harbor, but odds are that many of them have never been on a boat, never been on the water. Not because they didn't want to, but because they never had the opportunity. Meanwhile, the fishing industry that built this state is in danger of aging out, including the lobster industry. Last fall, in 2025, Maine lost Virginia Ginny Oliver, better known as the Lobster Lady. She was 101 years young. Ginny had started hauling traps when she was just 8 years old. The New York Times even did an article on her long career, along with public radio and countless magazines and newspapers. She was still lobstering up until the day she passed. Today's episode is all about an organization here in Portland that is trying to close the gap between young people who've never considered a career on the water and those who've spent their entire lives fishing. It's an innovative initiative called Lift All Boats. I'll be talking with Ben Conniff and Miranda Shin, two people who are actively introducing high school kids, aged 15 to 18, into the fishing industry through a lobster fishing mentorship program. The goal is to get more young people started on their way to obtaining a very hard-to-get lobstering license. Ben Conniff is the co-founder of Lift All Boats, and Miranda Shin is the current program manager. Let's start with a little background on Ben Conniff. If you live near Portland or have ever visited Maine's largest city, you'll probably know of the restaurant Luke's Lobster, located at the end of Portland Pier. It has a fantastic view over the inner harbor out towards Peaks Island, and lobster boats come right up to the dock at Luke's to unload their catch. Ben, together with his longtime partner Luke Holden, started Luke's Lobster in 2009 in a small shop in the East Village of New York City. After 10 years, they opened the restaurant and lobster buying station here in Portland, Maine, as well as a processing operation a few years later in nearby Saco, Maine. It's lobster around the clock for Ben. I first wanted to hear from Ben how the idea for the program Lift All Boats came about.
It was probably 2021. Luke and I were in the production plant where we take live lobster and produce cooked lobster meat and raw frozen lobster tails, and we realized that business, there was a huge amount of diversity in the population that worked there, folks from all over the world.
So a lot of non-Mainers obviously working in the plant.
When we thought about the lobster industry, really the only option is to buy lobster from people in families who have been lobstering for generations, because that's almost everybody out there on the water. And we thought, well, if we have this large population of folks who aren't multi-generational lobstermen here in Portland in this industry, why aren't they finding opportunities out there on the water?
So there's a sticking point, as I understand it, because you can't become a lobsterman without a lobster license, and those are not easy to come by.
To get that opportunity, you need to spend 1,000 hours learning to lobster, signed off by an existing lobsterman.
Oh, that 1,000 hours, that's roughly the equivalent of 125 8-hour days on the water. Wow.
And if you don't do that at a very young age, then even after your 1,000 hours are up, you're on a very long wait list to get a license. So your life is at least half over by the time you could ever be a commercial lobsterman, unless you do a student license. And so we thought, okay, well, how do we introduce students who might not otherwise know or be connected to the industry into that student license so they get ahead of the opportunity?
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Start young, build up the hours, so when you're ready to choose a career, you have a bit of a head start. And that's what Your program, Lift All Boats, is all about really an entree to the profession.
Lobstering is a really incredible profession. It is certainly not easy. It's hard physical work. But if you are somebody that doesn't want to spend your day hunched over a desk or tapping on a phone with your thumbs, but you actually like to be active, you like to be outdoors, you like to work with your hands, and I think most importantly, in Maine's lobster fishery, you like to be your own boss because it's an owner-operator fishery where the lobsterman chooses exactly how they want to run their own business. They make their own hours and they're in charge. And they also get to keep more of their spoils than if they were just an employee working for some large company. So I think it's that independence that's such a huge part of the culture of the lobster industry that I think would really appeal to a lot of people if they knew that that opportunity was there for them.
Ben, I mentioned Virginia Oliver at the top of the program. At age 101, she was iconic. But it's also a strong indicator, I think, that the workforce in the lobstering industry is truly aging out.
Anyone who's close to the lobstering community is seeing that the workforce is aging and that fewer young people are joining because there are just way more opportunities that seem open to young people who grow up on the coast of Maine now than there were before technology kind of opened up those different pathways. So it's not that there's a problem with lobstering, it's just that young people in those communities have more options now.
And it's by no means an easy profession, as you say. I mean, long days at sea, challenging weather, hauling, managing traps that weigh, 60 to 80 pounds. That's got to be physically taxing over multiple hours on the water.
On average, the age of lobstermen is going up and up, and the story that you hear constantly is of a person in their 70s or their 80s who really wants to keep fishing, and their spouse is saying, you cannot keep going out there by yourself. You need enough people who are able-bodied on the boat to support you because it isn't safe for you to keep fishing. And all they want to do is keep fishing. That pipeline of young people coming in and taking those second, third, fourth positions on boats, that's really necessary for the folks who want to keep going out to do so safely. And right now, there's a lot of people who are at risk because they're going out on their own and they can't find young people to work with them, or they're having to hang it up and not go fish. And that's what we're trying to prevent.
Just a short sidebar here. On a typical lobster boat, you'd have the captain who drives the boat, navigates the waters, and runs the business. He might operate alone, or the boat might have a stern man. It's a gender-neutral term. This could be a man or a woman, who does the heavy lifting, handles emptying of the traps, measuring, sorting, banding the lobsters, as well as rebaiting the traps. In addition to the sternman, some larger boats might even have a third man or fourth man to handle the chores. These positions are the jobs a future lobsterman or woman would potentially work at to get those 1,000 hours needed to qualify for a lobster license. And that's what the program Lift All Boats is all about. Miranda Shin, as the program manager, along with Ben, has designed the program as a means to get students into these jobs. Miranda, I know you're a Northeastern graduate student at the Rue Institute here in Portland, Maine. What would you say is the key feature of the program that really defines the mission?
Lift All Boat and my program really allows young people to enter the industry at a time that's actually practical and meaningful for them.
And the timing is really critical for a young person to even consider getting started in the program.
Exactly. So that's why we work with young people. We're reaching out to students as early as middle school, even going into King and surrounding schools here in Portland to get students interested, passionate, and informed about the lobster industry so that they can make an informed decision for themselves and choose Lift All Boats when they get to high school.
Miranda, I know you grew up in Maine and obviously developed a love of the sea at a young age and spent a lot of time on the water. But Who do you think is the most influential person as regards your passion for the sea at this point?
I think the most influential person in my life up to this point has been my mother. She really got me to love Maine. We came every summer when I was a young child, and then we moved to the state permanently when I was 8 years old. She really instilled the passion and the love of the ocean because we would always come to Scarborough Beach and swim with the rest of my family who lives in Maine.
Jumping ahead a bit, how did you first become involved with the program Lift All Boats?
I started at the beginning of 2025, and my role from the get go was program manager. So that is the role I began with. I love it. In the off season, so when we're not with the students in the summertime fishing with them, my role has basically been to professionalize the organization. Something I'm proud to say that we are now as Lift All Boats. We're a certified nonprofit, which is great. In the summer sailing season, I run the day-to-day program, so I just make sure that everything gets done correctly. We get our sessions off and going in the morning and afternoon. I also work on the back end with the summer sailing season in terms of traps and making sure that all our gear is ready. I coordinate with our senior captain to do that work. I also am a captain myself.
Impressive. How did that come about?
You have to have 365 days on the water, at least 4 hours a day to get the license, and then you take a test and it's Coast Guard approved. So I love that I did that with my time, and I think it helps me greatly when I'm sailing with our students.
You've accomplished so much, and all of it while you're still in graduate school.
Yes, that's another layer. I'm also at the RU Institute right now, which is a satellite campus of Northeastern University in Boston, and I'm studying project management. As a program manager, I use the skills that I learn in school every day. I love that the RU kind of has an entrepreneurial spirit. I'm kind of doing that right now with Lift All Boats.
How many boats are there in the program at this point?
Right now, there's only one boat. It's called the Sea Smoke. It's a 32-foot lobster boat. In future years, we would love to get another boat and have the funds to do that, but as of now, we just have the one.
And when you do add a boat to the fleet, Lift All Boats will help open the eyes to more young people in Maine who may be interested in fishing. Give them another option and a better chance to get into and build a career in the industry, which speaks to the vision and mission of the program.
Young people are leaving to go to Boston, to go to other places for work because they see it as a more financially viable option. But I think what Lift All Boats is trying to prove, and what we have proved over the past 4 years, is that young people are passionate about sticking around in Maine when there's a really great economic opportunity for them, especially something like lobster, which is very hands-on. Lobstering's something that is crucial to the state of Maine that a lot of young people, I think, don't know about just because they aren't part of a fishing family. And I think what Lift All Boats does is bridge the gap between not knowing anything about the waterfront to feeling like a young person can be part of the waterfront, even though they may not have the background that others do.
Miranda, are you aware of any other programs like Lift All Boats?
I think Lift All Boats has positioned ourselves uniquely because we specifically work with lobster.
Right.
I know that there are programs like for aquaculture. However, I do not believe there is any program that specifically targets high schoolers and lobstering.
Miranda, could you give folks listening in an idea of what a typical internship looks like?
We have a couple different sessions based on your skill level as a young lobsterman. So if you're coming in your first year, you would be sailing either in the morning or the afternoon with 4 to 5 other students. You'd all meet at the pier, gear up in lobster gear that is completely free to you. So you just come with yourself and maybe a sweatshirt, a t-shirt, some shorts, and socks, so you can slip on some fishing boots and bibs. So we'll swing around to go get some bait from Coastal Bait and then head on out, and we will haul between 5 and 10 lobster traps that are completely yours.
And the program is free to students?
Everything is free. There's no cost to you as a student. We'll take you out. You can fish those traps one at a time. We'll teach you everything you need to know about the industry and how to catch lobsters and haul successfully. So, where to put the traps, when to haul them, the timing, everything. We'll come back and we'll have lunch at Luke's Lobster, and it's again free to you, and then you'll go home. So you'll do it once a week, and then once the summer's over, you'll go back to school. So it's just a summer program, but it allows you to have another job on those 4 days you're not fishing in the week. I think it's a pretty great gig.
Miranda, how does a young person apply for the program?
So the students, they basically fill out a small application for the license, and then we submit it to the state of Maine, get the tags, and get everything that you need to outfit student lobster trap. We get them the whole student license so that they, right from the get-go, from their first session and then till the very end of the summer, they can lobster. There's no waiting.
So the students get to know the boats, the waters, the art of lobstering, and even the customer, right? The lobsters are then sold to Luke's Lobster right on the pier, and we, the hungry consumer, get to eat them. I love that.
Yes, they are sold directly to Luke's Lobster. We have a buy station right at the pier. Pull our lobster boat up, unload the lobsters into a big crate, and then that crate gets lifted up to be weighed and sold.
And how are the proceeds distributed?
So it's per student. So if you have a trap that is tagged as your trap, then you keep whatever lobster is sold from that trap.
What happens if my trap is light one day, like one or two lobsters?
It's kind of like, okay, one day you might catch a little bit less than your neighbor, but the next day it could be different.
Right, right. So you catch 10 pounds, 15 pounds of lobster. You get to sell that lobster, and you get to take the proceeds home with you.
You get to take those profits for yourself. Sometimes we have students that want to bring the lobster home and have a bake with their family, which is common too. But yeah, you get to keep every dollar that you make.
Oh, that's great. Can you remind listeners a couple of requirements that you need to apply to the program?
Those couple of requirements are that you're under the age of 18. So we're taking students that are in high school. So we want to have you be in high school, 15 and older, but not any older than 18. What we try and do, and what Lift All Boats has been successful in doing, I think, is putting students on the sterns of other lobster boats.
As you look back on your time with the program, what do you think of as the most valuable lessons that students take away from Lift All Boats?
You really have to be a good fisherman. You have to work well with other people, and I think that's kind of maybe counterintuitive because you think of this fisherman as just this one person, maybe they're going out. But it's really a web of connections that you need to do fishing well. You need to be really good at working with the people at the dock who are helping you unload the lobster. You need to work really well with your crew. You're on a boat all day, so there's nowhere else for anyone to go. So
Good point.
you kind of just have to think about others, think about how you're interacting, and I think that really takes you far when you come back to land. And in project management too, like you're constantly working with stakeholders who are maybe not the same as you, and figuring out that middle ground is very important.
Thanks, Miranda. Thanks for your time. And I've got to say, I wish I was a kid again in the program. I've been on the pier at Luke's watching students bringing in their catch, looking very professional. It's really great. I want to ask you, Ben, a critical question. If a new generation doesn't step up and reinvigorate the workforce, what does Maine stand to lose? Not just economically, but culturally.
Lobstering has been a huge part of the culture here in Maine, of course, for much longer than I've been on this earth. It is really critical to our identity as a state, both because it's this incredible food source that we love. We have whole cultural events built around, the lobster bake.
Right. The Maine lobster bake is a tradition that dates back over 2,000 years. The indigenous Wabanaki tribe. They steamed shellfish in sand pits with hot rocks and seaweed.
Also, the fact that it is this independent entrepreneurial owner-operator fishery That says something about the character of the state of Maine, that we've chosen not to consolidate this critical industry into the hands of a few corporate owners, and instead we make sure that people are allowed to go out and be their own business people. That is really key too. And to see something like that fail, that will have knock-on effects on the overall business culture, the entrepreneurial culture of the state. And then, of course, economically, you take however much money actually goes into the pockets of lobstermen at the docks, and you can multiply that, I think, by basically 3 times for all the knock-on effects of the other industries that serve the lobster industry.
Right, like seafood processing, distribution, hospitality, tourism, restaurants, of course, not to mention marine manufacturing and maritime services.
Basically vanish if the lobster industry is not there to serve. So socially and economically, it is a lifeblood of our state.
Ben, it seems to me you've got 2 audiences for the program. You've got the students, the kids, of course, and then you've got their parents who really got to buy into the idea that their kids are going to be out on the water, pursuing a career that, as you say, is not an easy one.
It's definitely a separate challenge to get parents comfortable with the idea that their kids are going to go off and be on a boat for hours at a time with relative strangers. And especially in the early days when we didn't have a track record to point to, what we needed to do was really build relationships with trusted adults in the sphere where these kids operate. So with their teachers, their coaches, their guidance counselors, folks from nonprofits in their community, and build relationships, build trust, and prove out that track record. And then also, of course, as our students have had good experiences in the program and told their friends and their parents' friends about it, over time, that has made more parents open to the idea.
Well, you've got a proven track record now. Lift All Boats is in its 4th year, going strong, helping to reinvigorate the lobster industry and support the infrastructure of the working waterfront. Where does Lift All Boats fit within, say, the bigger initiative of making sure that there's a healthy, productive fishing industry in the years to come?
A big goal that we have, and the reason that we're called Lift All Boats, as in a rising tide lifts all boats, is to make sure that by educating young people who might not otherwise have known about or appreciated the working waterfront in what the waterfront is all about and what it brings to our state, we are creating a new generation of people that are going to fight to preserve our working waterfront and to support it and to help it adapt. And if we continue to let young people drift away from that waterfront culture, then we are really increasing the risk over time that we could lose it. We could lose it to, folks unrelated to industry buying up all the property. We could lose it to not being forward thinking about climate resilience. We could lose it to any number of things. And so for us, even if only a quarter of our students go on to become commercial lobstermen, the other 3/4 are people who have now spent time lobstering on the water and met professional fishermen and understand what a huge part of our community is and are better equipped to help defend it and support it in the future.
Portland is currently the home base of the program, but as you think about other parts of Maine, what does that begin to look like? I mean, do you have a master plan in your mind and some kind of blueprint about how the program eventually could expand to touch, more and more folks up and down the coast?
We definitely want to spread our impact up and down the coast. Instead of having any kind of master plan that we're going to go implement, our approach is we're going to have conversations with folks at the docks, up and down the coast, and with communities that feel isolated up and down the coast. And there's all sorts of socioeconomic reasons why there are young people out there who aren't comfortable and don't feel welcome or don't feel ready to go work on the water throughout the state that we can support and that we can connect to these fishermen who really, really need the help.
Ben, where do you see signs that tell you this program is having an impact? It's making a difference and it's growing in a way that you envisioned it.
The most basic and obvious sign to look for, of course, is kids from our program who are on the sterns of professional boats. And we're seeing that now. We'll probably have 4 students this summer who are going to be full-time sternmen on lobster boats. We'll have another who's going to be a full-time intern on oyster farms. And we're going to have, that's 5. We'll probably have another 7 or 8 who will at least get out once this summer on a boat with a professional lobsterman. And so as students advance in our program and start getting these opportunities on boats, and those fishermen get the chance to work with these young people that they've been looking for, that clearly shows that we're having an impact. But I also think a stat that is really significant is that we've just hit our 3rd year in a row with 100+ applicants for this program.
Wow.
And when you look back, in 2022, when we started, it was pulling teeth to find 4 students to come to this program. Now, sadly, we have to turn a ton of our applicants away. So that excitement, that appreciation clearly is building as we keep growing and become more established as a program. And if we can continue to raise money, build capacity, expand the offering, include more kids, we are really going to start seeing that impact snowball here in Portland and, as we talked about, down the coast as well.
Ben, it's pretty clear these stats indicate that the program is already having a significant impact. What would you say are the near-term as well as the longer-term impacts on both this new generation of lobstermen and women as well as the current fishing community?
If this program is really taking hold and having the broader impact that it has the potential to, we're going to see our existing lobstermen have an easier time staffing their boats. There's going to be fewer folks who are out there fishing dangerously without the support that they need. There's going to be a greater excitement among current fishermen at the possibility that they could find someone who didn't grow up as their neighbor on a boat, but that could still be an incredible employee for them, incredible sternman or deckhand. And then finally, I think you will see a much better connection with some of the communities in Maine that have just been isolated from the water to the water, and a much better appreciation, understanding of that waterfront culture in the broader community. And in that sense, like a better conversation overall as we decide the future of this state.
Well, based on what we've heard here today and what we've learned, I certainly say there's a bright future ahead. And I want to thank you both for joining me today in this conversation. Miranda, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Mark, thank you so much. And thank you, for having me. It's been great to be on your show.
And Ben, thank you again for your time. For me, it's been a real education. And I think for folks listening in, it's been a true eye-opener.
Thank you so much. Glad to do it.
The program is called Lift All Boats. Personally, I can't help but be inspired by the program, designed to get high school students out on the water to learn about Maine's fishing and lobstering industry through hands-on experience, and a way for them to earn money and get a jump on a potential career in fishing, should they choose, with the goal of strengthening the vital lobster fishing community here in Maine. You can find more information at liftallboatsmaine.org. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell a friend or two. And a very special thanks to my guests today, Miranda Shin and Ben Conniff. This episode was produced at Munjoy Studios in Portland, Maine. As always, special thanks to my producer, Jewel Selbo. And remember, you'll find this podcast, Tales of the Sea, wherever you stream your favorite podcasts. Now, I thought it might be fun to go out with a short clip of a song by the Liquor Posse. the title of which contains 3 words a lobsterman never hopes to hear when he or she pulls up a trap. The title of the song? Ain't Nary One.
Well, I left my home this morning to fish those lobsters off the sea. My lucky hat is on my head, let's see what the day will bring. I got my bait and I got my lunch, I hope we'll see the sun. But there's 3 words I don't wanna hear, and that's ain't nary one. And ain't nary one when you're baiting on redfish. Ain't nary one when you're baiting on dust. Ain't nary one when you're baiting on herring. And it's enough to drive you nuts. There ain't nary one when you're baiting on rock stars. I can't wait until the day is done. I love this life on the ocean, but I hate it when there ain't nary one.
I'm Mark Winkworth. Thanks for listening.